Hello and welcome to a show that I know a lot of collectors have been waiting for. So today I'm filming from a very different studio, so I'm at home on my sofa, and today we will be doing the Q&A video, this time around for £2 coins, and answering all of your questions. I'm joined by our guest expert, Rachel.
Hi, really nice to be joining you guys today. We've got loads of £2 questions that have come through, so hopefully it'll be really helpful for you to go through the answers with us today.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get started. Let's start with YouTube. So David Joyce, Rachel, wants to know, what is the rarest pre-1997 £2 coin?
It's a really good question, actually. So before the standard bimetallic £2 coin was released in 1997, there was actually these single metal £2 coins. And I don't know if you've ever actually seen these ones before, Adam.
Yeah, no, I have actually. I've seen a couple.
Yeah, so they're very, very different to the coins that we have in our change at the moment. But actually 7 of those designs were released, and one of them in particular is very rare. So that was the 1989 claim of right £2 coin.
Do you know the mintage of that one?
So it's about 381,000 of those coins that were released. So that's really, really low when you consider that the other 6 coins that were released before 1997, they were all minted in the millions. And even when you consider that the rarest £2 coin you can find in your change at the moment, so that's the Commonwealth Games Northern Ireland £2, that has a mintage of just about 500,000, so about 485,000. So even that has more than that original 1989 claim of right £2.
Which is crazy, isn't it? So there's your question answered, David. Next up, another question from YouTube. So this is from the Art Bros, and they want to know, when was the first £2 coin made? And what was the first £2 coin ever?
Okay, so the very first £2 was again one of those pre-1997 single metal coins. It was actually issued in 1986, and it was issued to commemorate the Commonwealth Games, the 13th Commonwealth Games, and that was actually held in Edinburgh that year.
And that would be a very exciting coin to have in your collection, as that was the start of a brand new denomination.
Yeah, exactly. So let us know in the comments below if you actually remember when the first £2 coins were released into circulation, because it must have been amazing actually to see a £2 for the very first time, considering that up until then the highest circulating coin was actually the £1 coin.
Yeah, next up, so let's move across to our blog. We've had some questions. The first from Paul Underwood. So Rachel, Paul wants to know, how do I easily identify the Northern Ireland Commonwealth Games £2 coin?
Okay, so we've mentioned this one earlier. Of course, that is the rarest £2 coin that you can find in circulation at the moment, a mintage of about 485,000, so hardly any of them out there.
So that was back in 2002, wasn't it?
Exactly. In 2002, there were 4 different Commonwealth Games £2 coins that were released, and they all look incredibly similar. So they each feature an athlete holding up a banner, but in the centre of the design, you will see a flag for each of the constituent nations of the UK. So these are tiny, less than a millimetre in size. And when you consider how small coins are anyway, it means that it's really, really hard to tell these coins apart, because that is the only feature that's distinguishing them.
Yeah, I mean, let alone if this coin's been in circulation and that design has worn down a little bit, it'll make those details even less defined.
Exactly, that's right. So it is really hard to find these coins in your change, to tell them apart. The Wales one is a bit more obvious because of course you've got that dragon on the flag, but the 2 that are really, really similar are actually the England and the Northern Ireland Commonwealth Games coins. The only way to tell them apart is that the flag for Northern Ireland has the Ulster banner, and that's got a small star in the centre of it. So look out for the star on that coin. I suggest using your change checker phonoscope, because that's the best way to magnify the coin enough so you can see the details clearly.
Perfect. Well, there you are, Paul. Next up, Natalie Woods. So Natalie wants to know, are there any rare or error 2015 Britannia £2 coins?
Okay, so in 2015, actually, the UK's definitive £2 coin design was changed. So from 1997, it had been the technology £2, and there are so many of those. I'm sure you've seen that a lot in your change, haven't you, Adam?
Yeah, a lot of them.
But in 2015, the design was changed to the Britannia, and Britannia's actually been on UK coins for over 300 years. So it's a real welcome return to see the design on a £2. But actually, in 2015, only a really, really small number of these coins were minted, putting it in joint 3rd rarest position of the £2 coins in your change.
So that was that like 600,000-ish? Was it around there?
650,000 of those are in circulation. So yeah, very, very rare indeed.
Nice. How are there any errors with the Britannia? Let's talk about them.
Yes, so obviously that 2015 coin is already really rare, but what can make some of them even more rare is that there are a small number of these coins with an error where they have a rotated effigy of the queen on the coin. So that can be rotated up to 180 degrees. So you really do notice it on your change if you find one of these ones. But only a small number of them are out there. And the Royal Mint has put this down to the fact that the dies might have become loose during the striking process and rotated round. So it is actually a striking error that you can find on these coins.
And I mean, that would be great to find in your change, let alone a rare coin, but then a rare errored coin as well. That just trumps it all.
Yeah, definitely.
So next up, we've got a question from Neil Barrett, and this was from the blog again. So Neil said, I've been putting aside unusual £2 coins for years. My oldest is a 1999 Rugby World Cup, but how likely am I to see a 1986 £2 coin still in circulation?
Well, first off, congratulations on finding that 1999 Rugby World Cup £2, because that's a really, really great design. The 1986 £2 that you mentioned, that's one of the pre-97 coins, the single metal ones. And although technically they are still legal tender, they're not really general circulation coins. They are collector's edition coins. And so this means that banks and retailers, they don't actually need to accept them. And in fact, many of them will refuse those coins if you try and purchase your goods with them. So it means that they're not really in your change. They're really hard to come by. And if you do find one, you would be incredibly lucky.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to find or own one of those coins would be either the secondary market or a swap site like Change Checker swap site, for example.
Exactly, yes. You can request to swap this coin with other collectors. We have our Facebook group as well, the Change Checker community. So if you write a little message on there and say that you're looking for that coin, hopefully a collector will be able to help find you one of those ones.
Perfect. So moving on to Instagram. Next up, we've got Stiggy1984. So they want to know, are there 2020 £2 coins going into circulation? And we touched on this a little bit earlier with the VE Day £2, didn't we?
Yes, so the VE Day has recently been released, but unfortunately that one's not in circulation. We don't know if any of the 2020 coins will be issued for circulation. I am keeping my fingers and my toes and everything else crossed because it would be great to see some new £2 coins in our change. We haven't seen new £2 since 2016, so that really does feel like forever, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, considering that on the £2 coins, you can go from Shakespeare to RAF to VE Day, like we've just discussed. There are so many different great designs out there. It does seem a real shame for them not to be in circulation.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are loads of collectors out there that are looking forward to when we do next see new £2 coins in our change. Of course, that is all down to demand. And with the introduction of the new 12-sided £1 coin in 2017, the fact that so many people were handing in their old £1 coins and other loose change they had around, it just means that demand really hasn't been there for the last few years. I'm really hoping that we'll start to see some new coins in circulation soon, though. Like you say, Adam, it'd be great to see some of those, like the RAF, the VE Day, D-Day £2. Are there any that you'd quite like to see in circulation?
I think one of my favourites has to be the Frankenstein £2. So that was released, when was that?
2018, that one.
2018, that's the one.
Yeah.
Just the design with the lightning across the coin. It was so iconic. It just has to be one of my favourites.
Yeah,
what about you?
Well, I think the RAF series would be really cool to have all 5 coins released. It's something to challenge collectors a little bit, I think, when you've got a series like that, to see if you can complete them all. So fingers crossed we will start seeing new £2 in our change soon. But as for the 2020 coins, unfortunately, we just don't know at the moment.
Okay, so next up, a question from Matt Galpin. So Matt wants to know, what are the most common £2 coins other than the technologies?
Okay, so those technologies, they are really, really common, as you can imagine, because they are the definitive £2 coins. But if we talk about the commemorative coins, the most common one that you can actually find in your change at the moment is the 2005 60th anniversary of the end of World War II, so commonly known as the St. Paul's Cathedral £2, and that has a really, really high mintage figure.
That's over 10 million, isn't it? I know it's huge.
About 10 million for that one, yeah, so a really, really big mintage figure. And then if we come to the 2015 or 2016, I think it is, First World War Army £2, that one has also got a really high mintage figure, about 9.5 million there. So that is the second most common one that you can find in your change.
And when we compare that to some of the coins we were discussing before that are in the hundreds of thousands rather than millions, it does put in like to just to show just how rare some of those £2 are.
Exactly, yeah, that's right. If you want your third most common as well, the 2007 abolition of slavery, that one is the third most common with a mintage of about 8.5 million. So like you say, Adam, they really are some very high mintage figures, especially when you compare it to the rarer £2, like that Commonwealth Games in Northern Ireland.
So there we are. That's all the questions we have time for today on today's show. Thank you so much for sending them all in, but thank you even more to Rachel, our guest expert, for answering them.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's been really great to answer all of your questions.
And hopefully for the next Q&A, we will be back in the studio in the office, but I guess you never know. So yeah, thanks for sending all the questions. If we haven't had time to answer them, post them in the comments below and someone from the team will get back to you.